everyone, and welcome back to The Things We Know. Today, we are saying the F word. And before you get any ideas, we're talking about feminism. Although, honestly, depending on the room, the reaction might be the same. They actually might rather hear F or fuck than they would feminism.
I was going to say, if you've listened to us before, you're like, what's new? You say the F word all the time. Oh, that F
Totally.
word.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, I think it's funny how we've noticed in general, and of course, there's always exceptions. This is a podcast, not like a fact, like a encyclopedia. But in general, what we've noticed anecdotally is more millennials and Gen Z than not have a much more positive feeling about the topic of feminism than I think a lot of Gen X women do or had. And I'm really open to being wrong about this. Maybe we'll find out. I am dead wrong. Who knows? But like, I'm curious, like, did you have a strong association with the word feminism when you were growing up? And I'm not talking about the idea because that's positive for most of us. You also grew up in a much more liberal environment than I did. But like, did you ever have a sense that the idea or the word feminist was edgy or negative?
So I think that's hilarious. You always, because you only have heard about my mom as she was older, you assume that I grew up in a liberal. I grew up in a very like neutral household. And
Okay.
so I would say it was not something that I thought about as a young girl because my mom was a pretty typical stay-at-home mom in the 70s. She didn't start working until my parents got divorced, and that was when I was in the seventh grade. But when I think about maybe again the first time I ever heard feminism, absolutely. It was a bad word. It had a bad connotation to it. Like you didn't want to be a feminist. You didn't want to be burning your bras. You didn't want to grow hair under your arms. Like all those tropes, right? I know, but you know that's right, right? Like the feminists
Yeah.
didn't shave and they didn't wear bras
I
and
live in Portland. No, I'm just kidding.
but like again, growing up at the age we did in the 70s when feminism
Mhm.
was, late 60s, early 70s when feminism was first becoming out, it was it absolutely had a negative connotation, no question.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting to know. Because I grew up with a dad who genuinely believed women could do anything a man could. He didn't, and I think I've said this before, he didn't realize how demeaning it was to say things like be a doctor, not a nurse. Like be the
Right.
pilot, not the flight attendant. But that was like
Right,
his
right.
version of feminism, right? He trained female pilots. He had enormous respect for women who, put themselves through that rigor or who went to med school or became CEOs or just broke into male dominated fields. He was really, really a fan of that and wanted us to know that that was our trajectory if we wanted it.
Right.
And in that same house, in that same world, there were jokes and comments socially around, their peers about angry feminists, eye rolls, the clear message that being outspoken about any of this was like distasteful, right? Or just like too much. And,
Yep.
and that it would make people stop listening, or at least that's how I took it.
Mm-hmm.
So I internalized it early and I felt like it was important to be impressive,
Mm.
as like male or female. Like, it was important to be impressive and smart and funny and fit and I don't know, but quietly and demure about it, right? Like being loud about the contradiction was the thing that would cost you. It would like that's obnoxious. That sounds like you're hating men.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, I was trying to think of the first time I probably really understood the word feminism or being a feminist. And it was in sixth grade. I had a teacher, and goddamn if I can't remember her last name. I can see her as clear as day. And she walked in on that first day. And again, we're at Catholic school, and real big on the board wrote MS, period, and her last name, and then underlined the MS. And she was like, this is Ms. whatever her last name is. Like, I can't remember her last name, but I can remember damn well she was Ms. And if you called her Mrs. or Miss, oh, holy hell. I mean, she was scarier than any of the nuns I
That's
went to
so
school
cool.
with. Yeah. And I remember both being like nervous and also like, damn, that was really my first time. So again, never discussed in my house by any stretch.
Hmm.
My dad had two girls. He also trained us to believe that we could do anything. So I don't remember any dirty jokes. Like I don't remember any bullshit like that. But man, I can remember. Oh, I wish I could remember her name. It drives me crazy, but it's gone. So the question for both of us, and of course we want to ask you as well, is when did this change? Was there a moment you claimed the word without apology, or did it just gradually become the only honest option? And I would agree, I would think, I'm not sure I agree that millennials are that into feminism. I actually think they might be the generation that started a little bit of the backlash again.
The
I think
trad wife stuff. Yeah.
exactly. And then Gen Z, I think, again, my Gen Z experience has been they're all in. Um, I probably feel like I would never just be in. It's probably only been in the last couple of decades where I would have owned saying, "Yeah, I'm a feminist." And it's not that I didn't think I was; I just wouldn't have been out and proud about it. But now
Mm,
there's like no question, But it kind of goes along with no fucks left to give because I'm like, "Fuck you
that's
if you
true.
don't like this."
Yeah. I think for me, as embarrassing as it is to say, I think I was adopting and agreeing before I was claiming it.
Totally fair. I think that's what I'm
Like
saying too.
code
Yeah.
switching, code switching
Mm-hmm.
a lot. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I say this in a way that they'll listen and not shut me off? And as soon as I say that, they'll be like, oh, angry feminist. Um,
Totally.
and it's not like I didn't resent it, but I didn't totally fight it. I just tried to like work within it. And so it's a little embarrassing, but I mean, I went to an all girls school and like, I don't really remember anything there as a topic. I just felt like that was a very empowering experience
Mm-hmm.
to be in a classroom and like developing friendships and no one caring about how they looked. So whether or not it was being named, I think we were building strong senses of ourselves as women and like in community. So that's a positive, but I don't remember us ever being like actually discussing any issues around it because it was a Catholic school, right?
Yeah.
But I also didn't feel like it was trad wife school either. There used to a long time ago be a horrible nickname for that particular all girls school. They called it the Wife Factory because they used to teach home ec and stuff like that. But it became very college prep oriented and by the time I was there, and even though not everyone goes to college, most did. And anyway, so I don't remember that being like either direction, right? College is interesting because I went to a Jesuit school. And while Jesuits are more progressive and very social justice oriented, at that time, it was all male schools that were feeding into it and they had access to higher levels of
Mm.
education, so they were getting like calc and calc 2. And my high school we didn't get calc, so there was this accidental breeding that was happening there that was like boys are smarter just because like they'd
Yeah,
had
yeah.
access to. So I went into calculus sitting next to people who had already had it. So I don't think I was aware of that at the time, but that was in there. Then by the time I think it was my junior or senior year, a fraternity got exposed for a totally misogynistic and I think racist, but definitely like a gross newsletter that went out, and
Mm.
someone's girlfriend snagged a copy and made like, and she was in a feminist, like a feminism in literature class or some sociology class. She made 50 copies and put it in like the women's bathroom at like a senior happy hour night. And by the next day, there were hundreds of copies circulating. The national fraternity flew out and like took their charter, and like there was
Wow.
all kinds of disciplinary stuff. So the reaction was swift, and the demonstrations and the marches and all those things probably needed to happen. I think a lot of it was short-sighted because when you take away some regulations from a group of people and they're in trouble, then they're just unregulated, pissed off
Right.
guys.
Right.
There wasn't a really good conversation and opportunity to grow and learn there. It was just punishment, but that's how things were. So those were the beginnings of my awareness of like, so that's late. That's a little embarrassing, but true. Late to be like my junior or senior year of college going, this is fucked up.
Yeah, no, but I don't think again from a Gen X perspective, I don't necessarily think that's true, right? Because again, we're born around the time that feminism really, yeah, the Gloria Steinem, and I know we're going to talk about her and stuff, the Gloria Steinem and and that sort of thing, Ms. Magazine, all that, right? We're little, we're toddlers when all that shit starts coming out. And so then there's the automatic, like the backlash in the 80s. And now, sort of the 90s and beyond, it starts to come back. And it's interesting because I think what you're talking about is something that researchers have actually named, which is feminist identity rejection. I think that's what I was feeling when I first heard it, right? Women who hold feminist beliefs but actively refuse the label. I'm sure there would have been a time if somebody had been like, "Are you a feminist?" I've been like, "No, no, no," even though absolutely all my beliefs have always been there. And studies consistently show that the majority of women support equal pay, reproductive rights, freedom from harassment. But less than a third will call themselves feminists. And that gap is, I'm just going to say, intentional. It's not an
Agree.
accident.
The amount of people who like the far right has been so successful at
Hmm.
making it an F word. Like, so where people, like support all the things you just listed will say, I'm not a feminist, but like, what?
Right.
Why aren't you a feminist? Aren't we all feminists if we believe in equality? Aren't we a feminist if we think women should have their own credit card? Aren't we a feminist if we think women should be able to decide if they want to get married or not and not be penalized for that? Like, it's just that word's been deliberately weaponized over decades. You're a man hater. You're a broad burner. You're angry. You're unfeminine. You're hairy. And it worked because when you make a word toxic enough, people stop using it. It's kind of like what happened to woke. Woke actually came
Mhm.
from people's need to stay alive and keep each other safe in sundown communities. And now it has just been co-opted by the right to be this like mocked, like they're thinking about like a bunch of white women like us who get all pissed off about stuff, and they're forgetting that that word came from a culture that literally was being murdered and hanged.
Still.
So yeah, yes. So when you make a word toxic enough, like I said, people stop using it. And when people stop using it, the thing that it describes loses its organizing power. And that's not a coincidence. It's strategy. And I watched it work on me in real time growing up, where I would stay away from the word, even though I was doing everything like I got to that place in college with all the same opportunities. I had to work a little harder at calculus, but like I got all the things I wanted, went for. So it's not like I had less rights, but I definitely had some negativity about how I should behave around all that stuff.
Well, I think about you, you mentioned man hater. I mean, we still, and I'm probably the one that's guilty of it more than you. I don't feel like you ever actually the one that say this, but I mean, if we went back and transcribed all our pods, how many times have I said, it's not because we hate men? It's
Right.
still so intuitive in me that when we're talking
We
about
have to
all
explain
the,
it.
yeah, that we have to like, don't worry, guys. We still love you. Like, and men aren't even probably fucking
I do it
listening
all
in
the
this
time,
pod.
don't I?
But I mean, no, I do it. I feel like I do it. And you always just sort of agree with me. But I feel like I'm always the one that is self-identifying so that everybody feels safe that's listening to this pod. And I guess the reality of it is, I know, I mean, we have men that listen. I know that. But we realize the majority of our audience is women. And so I am doing that to make the women listen feel safe, right? Like there's that internalized misogyny that I am
Yeah,
perpetuating every time I fucking say that. It has absolutely
true.
been a goal of mine to stop, but I can't help it. And I think it
Yes.
does come because I have a boy, like I just would be like, but I have a really good son. Anyways, let's go back to Roxane Gay, who wrote in Bad Feminist that she is a feminist who also is a mess. I think she's speaking about me. Likes pink. That's not me. Watches terrible reality television. Totally me. And sometimes says the wrong thing. My kids would say that's me. And she claimed the word anyway because the alternative felt worse. I so relate to this. Like,
Yeah.
I realize, I guess I would call myself still like a feminist rising, right? Because
Yes.
shout out to Elijah. Like, because I just feel like it's, I will I'm still working on it, right? Because I think to your point, Gen Z might be, or at least the Gen Z women I know are more solidly available to say that to themselves, whereas I'm still unpacking all the shit that I felt when I first was aware of being a feminist.
Mm. Yes. I mean, the two things that stand out to me, and I could probably spend the whole rest of our time, which we got to watch today.
Yeah.
I could like giving examples of how I'm a bad feminist, but the two things that stand out to me is the way I'm always a little embarrassed to admit I love cooking.
Yes.
And
Yep.
the other one is that I do feel pretty gifted at anticipating people's needs and making anyone feel comfortable. And I also, at the same time, am really aware that that's conditioning of all
Mm.
the above things we've already discussed.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like those are ways that I cringe that make me feel like I'm anti-feminist around those two things, like these things about myself that I don't necessarily want to let go of. I like being good at taking care of people. I love cooking. But why does that mean that I'm not feminist? It
Well, that's
doesn't.
just it. Like those are
Like, I
things
get to
you
choose those
love
things.
doing. Exactly.
Yes,
You
right.
love doing those things. So that doesn't make you not a
Right.
feminist.
But it just makes me a subscriber of all the bullshit that was like programmed into me that I even
Yep.
have to explain that or acknowledge it. So that's weird. Um, and just that also, I've had friends over time be like, ugh, you still make their lunches or you still, and I'd be like, oh, I know I'm just um, Gloria Steinem said feminism has never been about getting a job for one woman. It's about making life more fair for women everywhere. And that's not a radical idea. And that's the thing. Like I keep saying, it's not the inverse of patriarchy isn't like women get like we don't take away voting rights from men. We're not even talking about that. But
Nope.
honestly, if you're thinking about taking away from us because we make emotional decisions, how about the fact that you're so violent? Like I mean, there's just so
Yeah,
many
violence is an
hypocrisies in
emotion.
there. Exactly.
Yeah.
So and there's actual stats there. So like it's not a radical idea. It's just dressed up to look like one, and that's success in propaganda. And I think that deliberate distortion is just really worth talking about and noticing. Because like once we really belabor it here on this episode, hopefully you'll be looking at it more. Because I'm still constantly noticing that.
Totally. Yeah, I know. I agree 100%. And then, of course, the question is, who benefits when women walk away from this word?
Hmm.
Who could that be? I mean, I just
I,
think it's insane.
uh, I have a good example that calls me out. So
Okay.
this week that we're recording this, our
Okay.
our imposter syndrome
Hmm.
episode goes out. And constantly, as people who aren't professionals, but we're trying to be like an understanding, like how do we get more listeners? How do we grow this pod? Right.
Yeah.
Any suggestions out there? Let us know. Um, we talk a lot about like, oh my gosh, why should people feel like imposters in this age of the audacity of mediocre white men? And you had a great title idea, and I wanted to back off of it because I was wondering, I wasn't afraid, but I was wondering, does that keep people from listening? Right.
But
And
I
I think it's
asked
in
you
the
because I thought
same,
the same thing.
right.
If I had felt good about 100% good about that, and the other title was Imposter Syndrome in the Age of Mediocre White Men.
Yeah.
And I texted it to you because I was having the same feeling. So I was actually
Mm,
validated by you. But if I felt like, no, this makes sense and it won't get us hid or won't like get us out of an algorithm, I would have just done it. So it's not
right.
like we don't agree with that title, but we know what this world still looks like. So that's
Right.
why we didn't do it.
And we also understand nuances. When we
Yeah.
say that, we know we don't mean all men are suck and are mediocre. We know that, but we live in a time where everyone takes one word and like labels you and assigns all this negativity. And there's a lot of success in that. And I don't really give a shit what they think, but if it like
Right.
blocks us from being heard, we have to fucking think about it. So,
Totally. Yeah, 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 exactly. Yep. No, I
okay.
agree 100%.
Okay. Here's where we want to try something. Lisa's going to read a list of things and just tell us if you agree with them. You don't have to say any words yet because you're listening. We can't hear you.
But you can say words. We can't hear you anyways.
Yeah.
But just listen to each one of these sentences. Women should be paid the same as men for the same work. Women should be believed when they report abuse or assault. A woman should be able to decide whether or not to have children. A woman should be able to walk into a meeting and not be talked over or be appropriated. Have a man repeat something she just said and have it credited to him. A woman should go to the doctor and have her pain taken seriously.
If you nodded like me to any of that, you have been a feminist this whole time. Surprise, surprise.
Woo! Yay! Congratulations. You are a feminist.
So Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Okay, sorry
Well
out there
done.
if I. All right, she said it in her TED talk that I highly recommend, and it has been viewed 30 million times. A feminist is simply a person who believes in the social, political, and economic equality, not superiority, equality of the sexes. That is the whole definition. Period. Nothing in there about hating men or burning anything down.
Yep. And this is why men can be feminists too. And yet here we are in a moment where young women, Gen Z women, are increasingly distancing themselves from the word. Now, I again am not having that experience, but I believe that to be true because again, we're having that backlash, right? And it goes maybe to some sense of safety again, right? Like we just recorded the safety episode. And if you step away from being a feminist, it gives you a little, maybe a little safety. But regardless, it's painful to watch because the options they have, the rights they exercise daily, the fact that we can have this conversation at all is the direct result of women who call themselves feminists and meant it. So, I mean, does that surprise you? Or I'm not surprised based on where we are in this world. I'm surprised we fucking got back here.
Okay, sorry about the sound in the background. I was trying to mute it out, but of course, I live in a city and there is noise. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yes and no. It doesn't surprise me because our mutual friend JD, she's reading ancient texts about how this has just been around from the beginning, like, where women started to work and men didn't like it. And,
Yep.
like, so since the beginning of even before Abrahamic religions, as it turns out, but definitely since then, like, there is just the subjugation of women and like so it doesn't totally surprise me. And what also doesn't surprise me is that the propaganda is working.
Yeah.
It's really working. And the economy with COVID forced a lot of women to give up their jobs and be home to do the childcare and the homeschooling that needed to be done. And so the spin on it is, this is what you should be doing. This is what makes things happy, and it's kind of like the post-war thing. Women
Yeah.
stepped into all those roles, men came back and felt threatened in their jobs. And so this huge propaganda machine with advertising, you see it in Mad Men. It's a great example of it. Like, started to need to program us to think that's what we wanted. And because our like systems knew better, we needed to get happy pills about it. So I guess it doesn't surprise me. And also, even though it teaches you a lot, shows like that are also being romanticized. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, you and I, we talked about it again in Imposter Syndrome a little bit. I'm rewatching Mad Men now, and I'm struck even more so than when I watched it 20 years ago by how like insane that time was. And I remember what my mom went through when she was in at work and so forth. I also, gosh, you just said something again. I lost the train of it. I don't know. Maybe it'll come back to me. Did
Okay.
you want?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
go ahead.
wanted to say this. Rebecca Solnit wrote that feminism is not a club you join. It's a way of noticing. I love this so much. Noticing
Hmm.
who gets to speak, who gets interrupted, who gets believed, who gets paid, who gets to take up space. I
Yeah,
don't know.
and
Like, it's like I think you and I have talked about this a lot, like where we notice it, how we notice it. When did the pattern become impossible to unsee?
well, I think so. Now I'm remembering what I was going to say. Two things that you said that struck me. One, the reason women got out of the workplace during COVID, other than just sort of being the mom and whatever, is we often are paid less. So it was like if you had to look at two salaries, it made quote unquote sense for the woman to walk away from her job because she was probably getting paid less and probably didn't hold the insurance and all that jazz. But then we were less likely to get back into the workforce once COVID was over. And then the other thing is the idea, this is what made me laugh, that I was going to say earlier was you said it's the same thing that happened after, World War II when women were, Rosie the Riveter, and then men came home and were upset that their jobs were gone. It strikes me again, who is the emotional one in this equation? They come home and they're all me, I lost my job. Oh my God, grow a fucking pair. Like, just it drives me insane. And so I do think that is there a time I first started noticing it? No, but I think it's like hindsight's 2020. I can go back and see all the ways I've noticed it, and I can't unnotice it now.
Yeah. And I'm curious to like, let's get into actually like why the label actually matters.
Yeah, I mean, so again, someone always says, why do we have to label things? Why can't we just believe in things without calling it anything? Okay, I hear you, but walking away from the word is walking away from the lineage and from the women before us who fought for the things we now take for granted. And we're going to talk about this here in a second, but the fucking women of color who did this
Mm,
work.
yes.
Oh my God. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, again, my mom as a single working mom, I mean, God, she started at a modeling agency as a receptionist. So that was probably similar to where Charlotte is right now. Like Charlotte's in an environment that is probably pretty empowering and safe. She works in West Hollywood, so she is really in the heart of the LGBT community here in Hollywood. So I mean, she is in a really fun, safe area to kind of be herself and all that. And I'm so happy for her and for me. But then, she moves to Northrop Grumman into the aerospace community. And it was, yeah, I mean, she was being
Mm,
sexually harassed and all the entire time, but she was a single mom. And my
mm,
dad was really great about child support and helping and doing all the things, but she still was the one raising us. So of
mm.
course she had to like keep doing that work while also being cut down left and right. So I just
Yeah.
think about, I don't, again, I think by the end, my mom would have called herself a feminist, but she sure as hell voted with her husband, not my dad, but my stepdad up until he passed.
Hmm.
It wasn't
Without
until Obama that she voted Democrat.
What's funny is without even realizing it, I see this all the time with single moms of kids with special needs, which there's a growing number of. You're feminist without even realizing it because you're too damn
Hmm.
busy.
Right.
Something Bell Hooks said that she was really clear on about like that label. The problem was never actually feminism because like we said earlier, that definition was so beautiful. It's really just equality and access, right? And like who wouldn't want that? The problem was that mainstream feminism got too narrow. It got too white, too middle class, and too focused on one kind of women's liberation. As so many
Yep.
things do, they get fucked up. Her answer was not to abandon the word at all. It's just expand it.
Yeah.
Somebody named Kimberly Crenshaw's her framework of intersectionality exists because of this insistence that feminism has to account for race, class, sexuality, and disability, all of it, or it is not actually doing what it says it's doing.
Amen. I remember Kimberly Crenshaw's being really aware of her during
Mm.
2020 with George Floyd.
Yeah.
Like that's where I first heard her name and this idea of intersectionality for sure. Because the narrowness of all this, I mean, it has real consequences. The suffragette movement is the clearest example. White women fought for the right to vote and then actively worked to exclude black women from that same victory. Ugh.
Mm.
Ida B. Wells, one of the most brilliant activists of that area, was asked to march at the back of the 1913 suffragette parade in Washington so as to not alienate white Southern women, and she refused. And she is not an outlier, she is a pattern. The mainstream feminist movement has repeatedly and still repeatedly centers on white women's liberation while leaving black women to fight on two fronts simultaneously. And it is infuriating.
Yes. And it's not ancient history. It runs
Nope.
right up to today. It's still happening. I just started reading a book called White Women by Regina Jackson, and I think it's Rayo. Sorry about that. They have a documentary called Race to the Table.
Mm,
It's fascinating, and it's all about like, asking white women about their internalized racism. And it's really uncomfortable and in such a good way. So we'll probably at some point do a whole episode on this because I'm going to send you this book because it deserves more than a mention. And I wanted to name it here because we can't talk about why feminism has lost people without being honest about who it lost first and why. White feminism, the kind that centers white women's comfort and advancement while treating race as someone else's issue, is actually not feminism. It's a subset of the same system it claims to be fighting. It's like a female version of misogyny.
Yeah.
And Black women have been pointing that out for over a century while being told to wait their turn. So if you're like a liberal white feminist and you don't understand why Black women don't trust you, this is why.
Ugh, snaps. Yeah, I definitely want to come back to this and have a full conversation. So I'm looking forward to getting that book. But again, right now, we just want to label it itself and why reclaiming it matters. So,
Yeah.
who
So who
benefits?
benefits when women walk away from the word? We
Again,
keep coming back to that.
who is it? Who is it? I feel like it might be white, cisgendered, straight, rich men. Because again,
Mm.
we're at a place where it, I don't know. I don't even
I mean,
really know where to go with that.
there's a lot of non-white cultures that are extremely misogynistic. Do you remember that cab ride I had when I was coming to
Oh
something?
yeah.
And like, so there's misogyny and anti-feminism in all cultures. But I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying it is.
But I also think it's interesting. This again is something that is very, I can't remember when this is coming out. I think it's not coming out till late July, but we are talking about this the week after the amazing UFC fight on the White House lawn and the one fucking wrestler who yelled out, Michelle Obama's a man, which apparently is his catchphrase, whatever. And I, 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 again, that is so deeply rooted in racism and the idea that um, men, well, one back in slavery, they could call they said black women were men so that they could treat them as poorly as they were treating the men and so forth. But also this idea that if there's a strong black woman, she must be a man
Mhm.
because she can't be stronger than me as a white man,
Yeah.
And I think that's true of any strong woman, right? Like the
Yeah.
reason they are denigrating us is because we scare them. Because
Yeah.
if we are equal to them, it reminds me of a friend of mine, David, as well. There was a episode we did ages ago, and there was something around this, and I said, the thing that the thing about is that men think if we have equal rights, we're going to treat them the way they've been treating us. And then David actually kind of zoomed in on this and said, or we're being treated the way men have treated, like even men who identify as feminists also get treated like cucks or not treated, but called that, right? They're called names as well. So, anyways, that's why I just want
Yeah.
to throw that in, that like it's still
Yes.
showing up on a daily basis.
No, it's still so bad. Like the most insulting thing you can say to a man is something emasculating or feminizing.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. And
Yep.
I think it's all being exposed. I think like this huge backlash we've had, like we've come so far, but we didn't even get our both feet in the door. And now it's all
Right.
kind of being yanked backwards for like there's no better time like the present for feminism to intersect with race issues because and just the disabled community, every like non-white male community, real and white men who care, like everybody
Yeah.
has to be really vigilant about it. um I wanted to not forget to say Gloria Steinem has a line that stayed with me. She said, "The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off." I love that. I
Yes.
think that's what feminism actually is at its core. It's not an ideology, it's a truth. It's really, really looking at the fact that we do not like a man can go into any state and have the same rights, and that is not true here in
Yep.
today's world. And we've said so many times, your mom and like all these older women fought for shit that we're actually still having to march for, or we're having to march for again. Women are fully human. Their lives matter equally. Their bodies deserve just as much, sanctity and ownership. So the structures we inherited were not built with us in mind. And we are allowed to say that out loud, that we are no longer property. And that has to be like, for some reason, reminded. And I just think that that's a super important thing to name. Like, why are we still kind of thinking it's not a positive
That's a
thing to
nice
be?
to have. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, as the kids these days say, period.
So we're not ending this with a manifesto. We do want to say something about claiming this word right now in a moment when a lot of progress we thought was permanent is turning out to be more fragile than we understood.
So, what do you actually want for what comes next? Not politically, just like personally. When you think about younger women in this world, what do you hope for when you think about younger women and the idea of feminism?
What I actually want is for young men to identify as feminists and for young men to make this their the banner, the cause that they're speaking out about.
Yeah, I mean, it's and the simple things is when you hear quote unquote locker room talk, shut it the fuck down. When you hear
Mm.
racist jokes, shut it the fuck down. Like don't
Ask questions too. What do you mean by that?
yeah, yeah,
Make
yeah.
people back it up.
I don't understand that joke. Can you explain that to me? Yeah. I mean, just I agree. Like I want women to re-own it and know that it's about equality as humans. And I want men to own it and know it's about equality as humans.
Mm.
We did an interview last week. I think has already come out. That's when we do everything out of order. It gets so confusing for me. But and we talked about the masculine and the feminine, and you and I had a little bit of a conversation after it. And even that, if you have listened to that episode already, or if it hasn't come out yet, remember that feminine isn't gendered necessarily,
Right.
right? Feminist isn't gendered. We are so quick to hear feminine and think woman and masculine and think man, and it's not true. So I
It's
also would love
equality.
it's equality.
It
We
kind of
are
reminds me
all
of
humans.
Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, like feminism. Oh, you hate men. No, all these things mean we all deserve to be centered, like all of us as humans. So it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Oof. Okay,
Mm.
let's do song.
All right. Well, you asked me to pick a song, and I thought, look, this is very on the nose, but we can't not pick Helen Reddy, I Am Woman. I mean, it was
I love
really
it.
the first
It's
feminist
like
anthem,
it's like
right?
the anthem of yeah.
Totally.
Let's let
So here's the
great.
words. I'm going to read quite a few of them because I almost wanted to read the whole song because I was like, damn, this whole thing is so good. So I am woman, hear me roar. In numbers too big to ignore. I know too much to go back and pretend because I've heard it all before. I've been down there on the floor. No one's ever going to keep me down again. Whoa, yes, I am wise, but it's wisdom born of pain. Yes, I've paid the price, but look how much I've gained. If I have to, I can do anything. I am strong. I am invincible. I am woman. You can bend, but never break me, because it only serves to make me more determined to achieve my final goal. And I come back even stronger, not a novice any longer, because you've deepened the conviction in my soul. It's funny to me when I know a song really well, I can't help but do the lyrics in the cadence. I have not heard that song probably since I was little. I mean, sure, here and there. So I have no idea of the cadence, but that was the lyrics.
I love that. I'm actually thinking of that Sex and the City movie where they sing it when they're like in
Yeah.
the I forget where they are, Abu Dhabi or something like
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean,
That's so
not a
good.
good movie, but that is a
Terrible
great,
movie, but a great
horrible
scene.
movie that could have
Good
ended
scene.
after the first movie. Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
it was a good scene.
So we hope that this episode made you think a little bit about identifying as a feminist. We're going to link everything we talked about, all the books, and I would love if you can even link that TED Talk into our show
Yeah.
notes.
Yes. And next time because it'll happen next time you're in a conversation or you hear yourself say, I'm not a feminist, but, and then go on to say something really quite lovely and inclusive, question it. Like, so when you say that, what's negative? Like that implies it's negative. Question it.
Right.
Question it if it's you. Question it if it's someone you're in a conversation with, because we are not going to deprogram this propaganda without like just really rehumanizing the whole conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you for bringing this to you, Carrie. You're the one who brought this topic, and I loved it. And yeah, and we're going to keep talking about this because these are the things we know. So thanks everyone for listening, and we will be back next week.
Bye.